Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, we can't hear.
चक्षुर्मलितं येन तस्मै श्री नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं भूतले स्वयं रूपकं स्वाहा नमामि विष्णुपदाय कृष्णविष्णुभूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी प्रश्नोत्तराः Panchakapatavastakapasikmev cha Patitanam pavinebhyo Vaishnaveyo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Okay, so welcome everybody to our topic for this evening, in consciousness, the power of consciousness. I feel I should maybe, turn around like this or something because I'm sitting in the empty space and you're all sitting there. Keep that side?
Yeah,
Oh,
good. Audience visiting.
Or I turn a bit and the ladies sit there. I don't know, but yeah, like this. Yeah, I mean, we are such a small family. I mean, today would have been a good day to go to that room, right? Mondays are usually a bit sleepy days. Okay, yeah, this looks better. Of course, now you have what to do. Okay, So the power of consciousness. So after all, we use this term consciousness so much. We are the Society for International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So we use this term consciousness so much, but maybe we don't even realize what it actually is, consciousness. Yeah. Yes. So, and Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, he tells us a nice analogy. He says, does he say, that's 1334, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness. Nice analogy, just like sun is illuminated. Can we maybe turn up a little bit the sound because it puts too much pressure on? And if I talk softly, then there's nothing you can, just a little bit more. Okay, that's maybe better. Even though, yes, if I go close enough. Okay. Yes, so a nice example, which we all can relate to, that just like the sun illuminating the whole universe, in the same way the soul, the living entity, the soul in the body, illuminates the whole body by consciousness. Yeah. So consciousness is the life force coming from the soul. Actually, have you got a Bhagavad Gita? We may as well read the purport quickly. Yeah, behind the book. Just grab a Bhagavad Gita and give it. An English one, please. Not Hindi. Okay, let's quickly have a look. Because there is nice purport where Prabhupada explains this further. Right. So, yeah. So one more time. As the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness. There are various theories regarding consciousness. Here in the Bhagavad Gita, the example of the sun and the sunshine is given. As the sun is situated in one place, but is illuminating the whole universe, so a small particle of spirit soul, although situated in the heart of this body, is illuminating the whole body by consciousness. Thus, consciousness is the proof of the presence of the soul, as sunshine or light is the proof of the presence of the sun. When the soul is present in the body, there is consciousness all over the body. And as soon as the soul has passed from the body, there is no more consciousness. This can be easily understood by any intelligent man. So let's try to be intelligent. Yeah. Therefore, consciousness is not a product of the combination of matter. So many people try to. It is the symptom of the living entity. The consciousness of the living entity, although qualitatively one with the supreme consciousness, is not supreme because the consciousness of one particular body does not share that of another body. But the supersoul, which is situated in all bodies, is the friend of the individual soul, is conscious of all bodies. That is the difference between the supreme consciousness and individual consciousness. Very nice. So yeah, I mean, we can say, God, we are only conscious of this one body and not conscious of every body. You know, we probably would go nuts if you were conscious of everybody. But yeah, very nicely explained. So as soon as there is growth, it means there's life. It means there's the soul present. It means there's consciousness. So it's not only in the human form of life, but in any form of life, there is consciousness. So in some forms of life, consciousness is more covered and dull. And in other forms of life, it is more alert and more uplifted. Yeah. So, and as Prabhupada says, qualitatively, it is one with the supreme consciousness, because the soul is part and parcel of the supreme soul. So we have all the same qualities, but in minute quantity, right? And in the same way, originally, the consciousness emanating from the soul is also pure and divine. Just like the supreme consciousness. It's actually divine, sublime, and pure. But then by the soul being here in the material world, we are influenced by the three modes of nature, and we get covered over. And that's how passion, ignorance, a little bit of goodness sometimes also is affecting us. So, and then the consciousness is not so divine and pure anymore. Shouldn't have strained my voice for this. Yeah, so we can imagine it's like a spectrum. On one end of the spectrum is the divine, sublime, pure consciousness. And on the other end of the spectrum is the consciousness of lust, anger, greed, false ego, envy. Right? So, and the process of Krishna consciousness, cat is coming again. The process of Krishna consciousness is meant to transform the consciousness, right, to its original sublime divine state. Basically, we can say we are like in an unhealthy condition. Yeah. And this process of Krishna consciousness is like the rehabilitation of the soul. All right. I used to work in rehabilitation before I became a devotee. So now I'm doing rehabilitation for the soul. We really need some rehabilitation here. Yes. So, and as it is described, the consciousness emanates from the soul like a powerful energy, and it is flooding the whole body. It is keeping every cell alive in the body. So the consciousness is actually in every cell of the body, and that keeps the whole metabolism alive for that. And as Prabhupada describes in the purport, so if the soul leaves, body is dead, no more consciousness, right? Yes. So that's the difference between a live body and dead body. No more consciousness. And not only does, oh no, let me explain like that. Coming from a medical background, let's say we cut off the tip of finger, of our finger in the kitchen there, and I'm cutting up, and oops, we're cutting up our finger. So we have only a very short time in order to stitch that finger back. Yeah, that cut off piece. Only 15, 20 minutes or something. So if the cells are disconnected from the powerhouse of consciousness for longer than a short time, just a few minutes, cells are dying, then you can't stitch it back on. Yeah. But you have to be very quick, and then you can stitch it back on and use to exercise people. So, or when we transplant an organ, you know, it's to go really fast. Yeah, the other day somebody sent me a video where there's this whole discussion that actually when you give an organ to somebody, you know, they often rip it out of you before you're even dead. Yes. And apparently when people take the organ of somebody, then that person is protesting and is actually, you know, getting up and protesting. Yes. Yeah, so it's quite a controversial topic, this whole organ transplantation, because there's a big money in it. You know? Yeah, because you have only so short time that they don't even wait until the soul is gone, you know, just to quickly get the organ and make the big business deal there, you know. So, yeah, so in any case, yeah, and not only is consciousness flooding the whole body, but it is also coming from every pore of the skin. It is emanating. Yeah, that's what we call the aura, mainly around the head. Here we don't see any pictures. No. Usually, you know, when we have Krishna or Mahaprabhu, we always paint them with this halo, with this aura, you know. Even in Christianity also, saintly personalities, we always paint them with this shining refulgence. Yeah. So this is not just some artistic tool or something, but it's actually factual that very saintly persons have, because of their divine and sublime consciousness, mainly emanated from the head. If we are a little perceptive, we can feel this actually, we can see this. You know? So in that regard, there is a nice little story where Prabhupada was on the way to a Rath Yatra parade. I think it was somewhere in America. And he was surrounded by a group of disciples. And the disciples overheard a conversation between two policemen. And one was saying to the other, "Look at this man, he is glowing." They had no clue who Prabhupada was. But still, they could perceive Prabhupada's importance. Look at this man, he's glowing. Yeah, so it is factual. I mean, we have that experience too, you know, sannyasis, sadhus. Yeah, they have some importance, they're shining. So that comes from that divine consciousness emanating. And in the same way, at the other end of the spectrum, you know, if a person doesn't have such sublime and divine consciousness, but more the consciousness of envy, lust, and greed, and fatigue, and all that, so then that energy is emanating. And if we are a little perceptive, we can also feel this, you know, and that is not so uplifting and divine then. Yes, it's actually contaminate. And I'm sure we may have had that experience when we had maybe some tension, some argument with a person, and we are in a smaller room with that person, even without anybody saying anything. We may be able to feel that energy. Oh, this person is angry with me. You know, it's all intense energy there. So that comes from consciousness. You know, it's not some imagined thing. But yeah, it's that subtle, powerful energy of consciousness. And also, let me share one interesting little story. In Australia, I know one devotee family where he had a kidney failure. And he was donating one of his kidneys to his wife. No, the other way around. The wife gave one of her kidneys to him, of course. So that is possible. We can live with one kidney. So and she is the only one in the family who loves to eat chocolate. Nobody else in the family eats. They have 4 sons. Nobody else eats chocolate, only her. So and when they came back from the surgery, and she has her cupboard where she keeps her chocolate. So when they came back from the surgery, she had this craving desire for having some chocolate. So she went to her cupboard and all the chocolate was gone. So and then she asked her husband, do you know where my chocolate went? And then he got a little embarrassed and said, yeah, well, I have to admit something overcame me. And I had this craving to have some chocolate, so I pinched it all and ate it. So, and then they thought maybe this is connected with this kidney transplant. So, and on the next checkup, they told the story to the doctor. And he was smiling and saying, oh, yes, yes, we know this. Every time we transplant an organ, the person receiving the organ has the same taste and craving as the person giving it. And then the doctor said, it seems like organs can remember things, which is, of course, nonsense. Organs cannot remember things. But the doctor didn't know about consciousness. You know? So her kidney was flooded with chocolate consciousness. And that chocolate consciousness emanated from his new kidney. And therefore he had that desire and craving to have some chocolate. But it didn't last for very long. It was just a week or 10 days or something. So then his new kidney was flooded with his consciousness, which was devoid of chocolate consciousness. And then that desire for chocolate went away. So, but that's like a medical proof. Our consciousness is in every cell of the body and emanating. So much so that, you know, that chocolate consciousness gets transferred. Pretty amazing, isn't it? And once I met one devotee, he was saying that his son needed some bone marrow. And he was pretty small. He was only 2 or 3 years old or something. And he was saying that for a whole year, his son had, you know, was disturbed. So who knows what that person did who gave that bone marrow, you know? I mean, in our case of the kidney, it's only chocolate. But, you know, another person may have, you know, done so many simple activities, eating meat, getting drunk, this, that. So it's all stored in the cells there, that kind of consciousness and transfer. And also a child's consciousness is more flexible and, not so firmly formed yet, so much more perceptive to negative and also positive influences, so he was more vulnerable. And of course, if it's a life-death situation, of course, we will accept some blood or something, even blood transfusion, also no consciousness there. Because there is some Christian group, can't remember who it is, 7 days. It is, yeah, Jehovah's Witness. Some of these groups, they don't accept blood transfusions, probably because of that reason. But yeah, we wouldn't go that extreme. Yeah, and of course, if a kidney is flooded with a consciousness, what to speak of the child in the womb? Gets completely the mother's consciousness during pregnancy. Yes, completely. So child raising does not only start after birth, it's already there during pregnancy. In fact, it already starts before conception. Garbhadan samskara, according to the consciousness of father and mother at conception. That determines what kind of soul takes birth. We are inviting a certain soul to take birth. It's not a coincidence. People don't know these things. Even in ISKCON, we have not managed to train our devotees. Again, Bhagavatam is full of stuff on samskara, Garbhadan. Talks about it all. But yeah, following, educated. But here, non-devotees, they're so keen, to learn how to breed horses and dogs and all that. But little do they know, we can also breed human beings. It's a whole science. Oh yeah, by the way, it's a bit off the topic, but there is one purport where Prabhupada explains, this is why in Kali Yuga, everyone is lower than sudras, because people are not conceived by Garbhadan samskara. Because the Garbhadan samskara, that keeps the semen pure, that keeps this family line pure. Yeah, and because that is all lost and forgotten, that's why everybody is lower than sutras. Interesting to understand. Yeah, Prabhupada describes all these things in the Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada said the Bhagavatam is the law books for the next 10,000 years. So obviously, Prabhupada expects us to practice all these things. It will take a few generations, but sooner or later, we should apply all these things. Otherwise, why would he waste his time there, writing all these things in the Bhagavatam if it was not relevant for us? Yes. So, yeah, consciousness at the time of conception, that determines who takes birth in our family. So sometimes, people I wonder, oh, my child doesn't want to take to Krishna consciousness. Well, in what consciousness were you when you conceived it? So we get what we deserve, so, yes. And even if we don't perform Garbhadan samskara, but just wanting to have a child, that already makes a difference. I know one devotee, she knows that she is the only one in the family who was a planned and wanted child. The mother had to wait for 6 months until she could gets pregnant. She was praying, oh, I want to have a child, you know, and she is a devotee. And nobody else, her brother, sister, not a devotee, they're completely different. You know, but she had immediately that attraction and the inquisitiveness and all that. So even non-devotees who don't know anything about Garbha Samskar, but just the fact, you know, if a person is in a prayerful mood wanting to have a child, Krishna already sees that, you know, and sends a special soul, you know, takes Krishna. And then, of course, again, also at the moment of death, again, our consciousness at the moment of death, that decides where we go, where we take birth, or whether we go back to God. So yeah, the consciousness is an important thing. Yeah, decides everything. Yes, and of course, not only the child in the womb gets the mother's consciousness completely. I mean, that's why during pregnancy we say the mother should be very peaceful, no tension, no arguments. She should be really, you know, engaging herself in a spiritual way and chanting and hearing and having all uplifting thoughts and you know, she shouldn't work and be in anxiety and stress and all this, you know, because the child who gets everything, you know, also hears everything. I once met a family from South India, and the mother was telling me that during her pregnancy, she was chanting every day the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita aloud, every day, just the Sanskrit, every day. And when I met them, the son was 5. He was 5. And without any further training, whenever the parents chant this 5th chapter and stop anywhere, he knows the next verse just by hearing in the moon. Wow. Yeah, I was really impressed. Because, yeah, of course, we know Prahlad Maharaj heard in the womb, you know. But I always thought, of course, Prahlad Maharaj would hear in the womb. Why wouldn't he? He is Prahlad Maharaj after all. But then this is still going on today. Wow, I was so blown away. You know, this is what we have to teach our ladies, these things, you know, that the child hears everything. And even meanwhile, there has also been some research by materialists that the newborn baby reacts differently, that they made these tests, you know, these experiments, that the children were hearing certain music, or the mother was hearing a certain kind of music while she was pregnant. And when the child was born, the child reacted differently to that music than to any other music. So even the materialistic scientists came to that conclusion that yes, the child in the womb hears actually. That they got it. Yeah, so that's why, you know, when people are pregnant, there should never be any arguments and all this. It's everything. It's everything. It's everything. Yes. So now, of course, also every movement is executed through consciousness, right? That's why, you know, a person in divine consciousness, like Srila Prabhupada, every movement was just so attractive and beautiful and fascinating, you know. The way Prabhupada would walk, the way he was dancing, smiling, laughing, flicking a sweet in his mouth. Everything was just so amazingly attractive because it was executed with that divine consciousness. And same way, at the end of the spectrum, so if a person is in a mood of lust and greed and envy and false ego, always wants to be the center of attention and being noticed and glorifying himself. So, person in that kind of consciousness, every movement he or she does, if you're a little perceptive, you can feel that, how people laugh and conduct themselves. Yes. And that is not so attractive, at least to us devotees. We can feel this person wants to be in the center of that. Or lust, lusty glances, very contaminating. I mean, we know even when we offer bhoga to the deities, we always cover it with a cloth, right? Because if somebody looks lustfully at the offering, already contaminated, you can't offer it anymore. Yeah. So that's power of consciousness. Looking at something with a lusty desires, contaminates. Yes. So, and well, not only every movement is done through consciousness, but also whatever we create with our hands, the consciousness enters that object, right? I'm sure we all have heard that the consciousness of the cook enters the food, right? Yes. So that's why we are very careful in bigger temples here. Here we have only one Brahmana, I think. But in bigger temples, we have only Brahmins cooking, hoping that they are in good consciousness. So of course, it's not a guarantee. Just having the Brahmin initiation is not a guarantee that we are in good consciousness, but we are hoping. So that's why we usually make sure that only, regularly practicing devotees should cook, because their consciousness enters the food, and by eating it, it will affect us. Oh yes, yes, definitely. So we are not only concerned, oh, is it vegetarian, no onions, no garlic? No, who cooked it? That should be the concern. Who cooked it? Right? And that's why if those of us who are more strictly practicing Krishna consciousness, we would not want to go to some non-devotee restaurant, even if it is vegetarian, because cooked it. And if people don't chant Hare Krishna, follow the principles, well, in what consciousness are they? Thinking of their lusty activities the night before or whatever, and all that goes into the food. Then if we eat it, it will affect us. It will increase our material desires, definitely, definitely. So, if we are strictly practicing, then we avoid any kind of food which is cooked by non-devotees, even packaged, bread, cookies, sweets, whatever, ready-made dishes there, and all this kind of stuff, not so good. Because if we just do it once or something, okay, but if we make it a regular habit, it will have an effect. Yeah, it definitely has. It's quite subtle, but it's factual. And not only is, of course, the consciousness entering the food we cook, but anything we make with our hands. So that's why handmade things are always special. They have a special energy, like when our mother is knitting a scarf or a hat for us for winter. So, mother's love and devotion goes into every little stitch there she makes. And that energy is lingering in that hat. And we can feel it. Or handcrafted jewelry or whatever. You know, handcrafted things are always so much more attractive than made by the machine. Yeah, so it's factual. And I mean, talking about mothers, even amongst non-devotees, it is known that mother's cooking is the best, right? Because she puts all her love and devotion in it. You know, homemade mother's cooking, oh, that's the best. You know, yeah. Yes. And I know one devotee in Germany, over several years, he built his house mainly with wood. And when you enter his house, you can feel there's a different energy there, you know, because he put so much effort, so much devotion into this. Wood is a nice material anyway, it sucks up all the energy, you know. Whole different feeling than living in some concrete blockers. Or sometimes devotees, they put cow dung on the walls, you know. Yeah, everything about the cow is so auspicious. So if we put cow dung on the walls, also it's nice energy. Yeah, and I mean, that's also why we like to have, you know, some Maha Prasadam of our guru, some hat he wore, some chada or something, because an item that a person was using, a saintly personality, of course his energy goes in there. And it remains in there, it lingers in there. That's why it's fast worship for no. Yeah, so these things are all factual. And then another amazing thing is that consciousness travels on sound vibration. Yeah. So whenever we sing or speak, our consciousness travels on that sound. It's again a special arrangement by the Lord that the voice is very closely connected to emotions. We can't hide our emotions, right? When we're angry or in shock or nervous, you know, immediately it affects the voice and it comes out. You can't hide it. So, and that's why kirtan is a whole transcendental affair. Yes, it's not just some music or something, but the consciousness of the kirtan leader travels on the sound vibration and it affects everybody's hearts who hears it. Yeah. So that's why kirtan should really be chanted, you know, in devotion, calling out to the Lord. Tomorrow we have the last session on chanting the holy name. We'll talk about that more in detail tomorrow. But yeah, if the kirtan is chanted really with calling out to the Lord, connecting with the Lord in devotion, in longing for the relationship, so then that pure devotion travels on the sound vibration and uplifts everybody, transforms the heart. But at the end of the spectrum, if the kirtan is chanted in, you know, in the mood of trying to show off, bringing attention to ourselves, look what great voice I have and this and that, oh well, then that consciousness travels on the sound, the showing off consciousness. And that kirtan is contaminating, even though it's the holy name. We say the holy name is always pure. Yeah, it is pure, but we are putting a layer of contamination, of negativity on it, and then it will poison our heart, actually. And not only the kirtan leader, but all the instrument players too. Again, when you play kata, mridanga, the consciousness emanates from our fingertips, you know. And if a kata or mridanga player wants to be noticed, he's showing off, look how expert I am. Oh, if you're a little perceptive, you can feel it. Yes, and it actually contaminates kirtan. Yes, so kirtan, we have to enter kirtan in the mood of serving the Mahamantra. Yeah, not killing the Mahamantra. You know, sometimes it's a whole competition, which instrument is the loudest here. And they completely kill the Mahamantra. You know, everybody wants to be heard. That's why people grab the wampus. You know, terrible, terrible. I mean, in regards to kirtan, I have to share this funny story. Yatupa Prabhu told me personally. You probably know Yatupa Prabhu. So he was in Prabhupada's room once in Mayapur, and there was this loud, passionate kirtan happening in the temple room. You know, passionate. And then the kirtan stopped. And then Prabhupada turned to Yadu Prabhu and said, "Good, he has finished." That's all he said. Good, he has finished. Yeah, so I guess Prabhupada, at least, he was glad at least they're chanting Hare Krishna, you know, but these wampa stomper, how we call them, these passionate, loud kirtans, don't, you know, it's just a mode of passion. You know, we are meant to connect and call out and long for the relationship. It's the perfect and sublime love song. You know, all the love songs in the material world, I love you, you love me, I cannot live without you, and all that. They are all the perverted reflection of kirtan. Kirtan is the sublime love song. I love you, you love me, I cannot live without you. That's what we are meant to offer to Krishna. You know? But this passionate kirtan, good, he has finished. That's what I often think when I'm in these kirtans. You know, yes, sometimes so loud, you know. Sometimes I can't tolerate it. It hurts my ears, so loud it is. It actually damages our hearing. Many of the senior devotees, they're almost deaf. They're all wearing hearing aids. Yes, and Jujumna Swami has something there behind his ears, Mataji. So many of them, they all damaged their hearing because of these kirtans. Yes. In medical terms, it's called deafness through industrial noise. So that's what we're producing here sometimes, industrial noise. You know, bashing and banging. It's like noise of the factory. Yeah, so, you know, we have to get, I mean, it is a whole different topic and we don't have the time. But kirtan is a whole big topic, you know, because sometimes we are not changing the whole holy name. We are just producing some industrial noise that makes us deaf. You know, yes, but it's got nothing to do with the holy name. It's Krishna, yes. Yes. So, but the main and foremost thing is we should enter kirtan in the mood of serving the Mahamantra. If we meditate on that, then the instrument players will play differently. They want to serve the Mahamantra. The Mahamantra is the center. All the instruments are just enhancing the Mahamantra and serving. And even dancing too. You know, if the dancing is in the showing off mood, contaminates the land. Any kind of showing off contaminates. We want to bring attention to ourselves instead of Krishna. Another last maybe point is that the subtle energy of consciousness in regards to speaking or singing cannot be captured by the camera lens. Sorry to disappoint my audience there. The broadcast. Yes, this can only be captured when we hear from the person's mouth. Yeah. Transcendental sound has to be heard directly from the person. I remember once I clearly had this realization. We had a holy name retreat in Bangladesh, and there was one kirtan which was really out of this world. It was really amazing. It was like every Mahamantra was like a big wave of bhakti flooding everybody's heart. I had never experienced anything like that before. And I was not the only one who experienced it, because I looked around and I could see everybody experienced it. It was almost like somebody else was present there. It was actually, we had the retreat at Pundarik Vidyanidhi's appearance place, birthplace. Was the Tata, that's why it was a pretty holy place. And the devotee leading the kirtan wasn't even so senior or something. It was just a younger brahmachari. But yeah, he sang one of Satchidananda Swami's nice tunes, and it was amazing. So, and somebody filmed the Holy Name retreat, and they gave me the DVD. And I was thinking, okay, Jai, let's watch this amazing kirtan. And I was watching. So where is it? Where's the bliss? Where is it coming? Then I realized, stupid me. Of course, the DVD can't give that. No, sorry. Yeah. So that is sometimes a little bit of a challenge for people to accept, because some people are so attached to just hearing everything online, staying in their cozy homes and just hearing it all online. And often they don't even listen properly. They do other things. They don't switch on when they're Zoom. They don't switch on their video. It always means they're not even there. They do so many other things, and then the half of it flies past their ears, and they don't even hear it properly. But yeah, even in regards to mundane communication, there is this famous communication pie. And they say 7% of the communication is given by words, only by the words. You get only 7%. So text messages, emails, you can really misunderstand each other if you don't know each other's mood, how you say it, because you actually only get 7%. So then 35% comes from the tone of voice and emphasis. So phone call gives you already a bit more, So 35 and 7 is 42. So there's still 58% missing. And in mundane language, they call it's transmitted through body language, meaning personal presence. So body language is a little gross, the way you, so that's the body language, but more subtle, because they don't know about consciousness. The subtle thing is actually the consciousness. And of course, it reflects also in the body language. But even if a person just sits like that, still the consciousness says so much more than the body language. Yeah, so even mundane communication experts, they know that, 58% comes through the presence of a person. So that's why touchy topics, we should always discuss in presence, right? Yes, we should sit face to face, and then the person can feel in what mood we address things. We should never do that over phone or some message and all these things, but always with personal. So even if mundane communication people, they understand this. So what to speak of, communication in spiritual life. So of course, the personal presence, we can feel the person's consciousness emanating from the person's body and traveling on the sound level. So we should always, if somehow possible, we should always make this endeavor to hear in person's presence. Yeah. Because very easily we are missing out. We actually only get 42%. All right, we get something better than nothing. But the main thing of the consciousness, we are not getting. Yeah. And very easily, we can cheat ourselves and take the easy way out and not go to the program here or on the internet. Or some people, they watch the Navratri Mandala Parikrama on YouTube. But obviously it's not the same as going there and being there. So it's really this, it breeds this lazy mentality. But here Rupa Goswami tells us we have to be greedy, loyal. That's the only qualification we need to have to get pure bhakti, intense greed to bhakti. So an intense greed means nothing can stop me. I want to be with the devotees. Nothing can stop me. Actually, we shouldn't even drive to the temple. We should walk. That's parikrama. Actually, but all right, you can drive. Okay. But actually, the whole parikrama, that effort, I want to walk every step, even if it's raining and snowing and nothing can stop me. I want to be there. That's when we make advancements. Yes, it's all the important part of the whole purifying journey. Like Tirupati in South India, there's Balaji temple on the top of the hill there. So the seers people will walk, right? Yes, it takes quite a while to get there. But then there's also the curvy road, So now Ramanujacharya, when he took the darshan of Balaji, you know what he said? He said, no, I cannot touch the mountain with my feet. It's sacred, holy. He went up there on the knees. See, that's the spirit. So we should call on the temple. Yes. Yeah, so easily we miss out, because also we actually have to be humble to sit in front of a person and hear from them, But by hearing online, we can even bypass that, We can just casual listen there while we eat. I mean, here we would think it's a bit rude if you sit here with your plate of prasadam and eat, Nobody ever managed to manifest such behavior. But yeah, at home, okay, let's eat and let's see what he's got to say. And oh, come on, it's nonsense. Just let's switch to another video here. I don't want to hear this anymore. So we can nicely maintain all our proud attitude. Oh, did you hear that? What he said? Oh, forget it. I could have make that point better. Yes. So, at home, we're missing out on all cultivating that humility, and even to associate with devotees. We also have to be humble, otherwise we don't fit in and things annoy us, and we're, and waiting in the crowd there until I get my plate of prasadam and all that. So it all takes humility, But if we just think, let's just stay at home and we would just watch it all, it's more comfortable. I remember once I was at a big event where Radha Swami and Narendra Swami were present in Ukraine before the war started. Oh God, there was hundreds of people there, thousands, I don't know. And of course, it was austere, and people who lived just next door. I was wondering, where are they? They're not even here. And the next day I met them. Oh, you were not at the program? No, I watched it online. Too big crowds. I just watched it online. Well, you're missing out, you're missing out. I think you have it more comfortable at home, but you're actually missing out. And you're not capturing everything. But yeah, online, some little benefit of course it has. Actually, Gaur Govinda Maharaj, maybe some of you have heard his name, read his books. He also talks about this, that Shabda Brahma, transcendental sound, has to be received directly and not through recording. And he makes this point that there's two benefits we get when we hear through internet or recording. Apart from the fact of hearing the information, but there's two subtle things. Let me see if some of you capture this. What does it do when we watch, let's say we watch a video class of our guru? What does it do? Apart from hearing the information, what does it do? Yes, it goes in the right direction. What do? We remember the moment when we were sitting in front of him, right? We remember that moment. We have that same feeling in the heart when we were sitting in front of him. And if he's still in this world, the second one, we will hanker to once again sit at his lotus feet and hear. So these two benefits are there. We remember that feeling and we hanker to once again sit and hear from that person. So they are the main two benefits actually. So we capture something if we remember that feeling and we hanker to once again be in his presence. All right, so we're going over time. Any questions? Yes.
Yeah. Mataji, I have a question. Now it's about cooking.
Okay.
To be in the right mode. Also, we do like when we're offering book, we put tulsi and then we offer. Isn't it? It's supposed to be like purifying.
The food.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, just by chanting mantras, that purifies. Actually, one Ayurvedic doctor told me, but I'm never doing it. But he said, whenever I take some supplements, some medicines, Ayurvedic medicines, I should actually first chant the Maha Mantra. Because this, as we said, the sound vibration and Maha Mantra is a spiritual sound vibration, so that changes indeed the molecules. There has also been some experiments made with a glass of water that you shout angrily at a glass of water and the molecules are all completely disturbed, and you can prove it somehow, and then you say something loving, and then the molecules are all arranged in beautiful crystal forms. Pretty amazing, isn't it? Yes. So the chanting, even when you chant the Maha Mantra to some powder or medicine or something, I mean, if they're coated with something, then maybe it doesn't really enter so much. But many of these Ayurvedic, ashwagandha and this and that, Brahmi, they're not coated tablets, they're just pressed, So if you chant at them first before you take them, then there's more benefit there.
No, Mataji, I'm also inquiring.
So you mean when we offer
Yeah.
things cooked by non-devotees?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's put it this way. If it's cooked in good consciousness, that's first class. Prasada. There's more potency. And then if it's cooked in not so good consciousness, it's second class. And then cooked by non-devotees is kind of third class. And well, you can even argue whether Krishna accepted really. I don't know. And maybe also it depends on the situation. Like when Prabhupada sent Harikesh to preach in the former Soviet Union, Harikesh was saying, but Prabhupada, there's only meat available, there's no vegetables, no fruits. And Prabhupada said, if there's no fruits and vegetables available, you can eat meat, but go and preach. But of course, there are always, they have fruits and vegetables available, but if it is some extreme situation or something, all right, Krishna may excuse, but if we make it a habit or something, then it will have its effects. Yeah, it does. Yes. Yeah, I mean, all this junk food from the packets, packets of chips and popcorn and what people all buy, and different chocolate bars and whatnot, yeah. Or some cakes on the shop and these things.
Thank you.
Yes.
A comment, not a question.
Yeah.
Regarding the consciousness, like during conception, like in the Mahabharata, we read about the daughters-in-law of Satyavati and how she instructed them on how to conduct themselves. And in this regard of that, we saw the consequences.
Yeah. Also here, Kadama Muni, Devahuti, and then is it Diti or Aditi? Who is the mother of the demons? Aditi, yes. And Kasyapa Muni, right? So the demons came out of that one. So we're there. I mean, a very common question with this topic is also, so how do we protect ourselves from all these negative influences? All in regards to consciousness traveling on sound vibration, I forgot to mention, so that's why we are careful what kind of music we invite into our life. We all want to have a bit of music in our life, but if we invite army music or Bollywood music, that's what Indian people like to hear, or the cinema songs and all that, Oh, well, then you're catching all kinds of vibrations there and energies, so that's why we're not so keen on non-devoting music, But we want kirtan, mainly chanted by great souls, or at least classical music, I don't know, do you hear here? You have Beethoven, Mozart, all these classical composers. Do people know them here in Kenya? No? Huh?
What's that?
Yes. But you don't know?
I don't know.
You don't know Haydn or these, they're all European guys, Yeah, I mean, and there's also church music, Bach. He wrote a lot of church music, it has a different energy, Yeah, definitely. It's at least on the mode of goodness, Yeah, so yeah, and the common question, of course, is so how do we protect ourselves from all this negativity and bad consciousness around us, right? I mean, if you sit in the office all day with non-devotees, they have all their energies, they're emanating, so, it is contaminating, definitely. So Prabhupada said, inject the blood with KC drug, meaning sadhana. So that's why it's so important that we start the day with some sadhana, that we chant at least a good amount of rounds, attentively, prayerfully, call out to the Lord, connect. We'll talk about that more tomorrow. And also read a few verses from the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, that gives a whole different focus to the day. And that gives us a little bit of immunity, but we should not feel overconfident or something. We still have to practice a bit of social distancing. We all learned that during pandemic, because it's the same thing. It's actually contagious, We catch people's lusty, envious thoughts, ego consciousness through close association. It rubs off on us. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur also says that actually we can only call it association if the emotions are involved, if the heart is involved. But when we go to the bank and we just do our dealings there and go out, that will not, you can't even call that association. But when our feelings are involved, when we start liking this person, when we admire the person, or we think, oh, the person is doing such nice activities, so then the heart is open, and then we capture what kind of energy, the consciousness the person gives off, So at work, with non-devotees, we should protect our heart a little bit by not, starting to like them too much and, find pleasure in what they do and get emotionally involved. We simply have socially pleasant dealings with them in order to leave a positive impression on them in regards to Krishna consciousness. So all our relationships should have that goal to bring people closer to Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, what's the use? No use to associate. That should be the only goal of any kind of relationship, even with family members, neighbors, non-devotee family. The only goal should be to bring them a tiny little step closer to Krishna. So, but otherwise, we try and protect our heart a bit. Otherwise, we affect us. Yes. Also, students, studying at university, all this. It's very contaminating if there's all these friendships there and peer pressure and and competition and all that, and ooh, this really affects the heart. Yeah. All right, almost 9 o'clock. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada Ki Go. And that topic of consciousness, that's the first chapter in the Fourth Ego book. So, yeah, maybe today is kind of the last chance for people to get some books if they want to get some books, because we have to finalize the populations. Good topic for outreach. This topic of consciousness, I often present that at universities. So, if the more Krishna conscious details I skip and I just talk about the more general ones. Yeah, people always find it very interesting, because it's all cool and subtle and new agey, how we say in the West. Okay, thank you for your kind attention.
Question from Victor.
How many people were in line there? Five. Five.
Stop there.
Maybe some left when I told them they're not getting much benefit from us. They maybe didn't like to hear that one.
Very good.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.